How's it going, guys? I'm your host Caravan Gaming, and today we have another very special Adventure Quest video. So today's video is going to be split into two parts. The first part will be about the current state of the game, and the second part will be about the unprofessionalism from one of the AQ staff. I'm not going to be doing anything on the screen. There will be no gameplay, so you guys can just listen to me talk. Okay, so let's start with the current state of the game. Keep in mind that the views expressed here are my own opinions after observation and my own personal experience. You are of course free to agree or disagree with me. The game is currently in the worst state it has ever been since the game started 20 years ago. Many of your paying players are unhappy, many of your veteran players want to leave the game, and many of your casual players are finding it hard to enjoy the game. Firstly, the BTH bug. For those of you who are unaware, there has been a bug regarding player BTH in the game for about a month now. A month ago, we had a small stat update. In short, players BTH is now bugged to be lesser than what it currently should be. So, if you're having more trouble than usual hitting monsters, then there's your explanation right there. Shortly after this update, one of the game's main coders, IMR, fell sick. This is understandable and I hope she's recovering well. The problem here is that AQ has more than one coder. Weekly releases are still getting pushed out, and yet there is zero mention of fixing this bug. Everyone is affected by it. If even high-level veteran players are having trouble hitting stuff with their maxed out equipment, it is probably 100 times worse for the casual player 50 levels lower. Having so much difficulty hitting anything is extremely frustrating for gameplay and is quick to drive any player away, new or old. It seems to me like the staff aren't treating this bug seriously enough to warrant that it needed fixing immediately. I don't know who is in charge of what on the team, but are you telling me IMR is the only coder that is capable of or has the authority to fix this bug? If no, then what's taking so long? I'm of the opinion that if you can't come up with a better solution, then just revert the change for the time being. Making players underperform will generate way more unhappiness as opposed to going back to what the old stats did before the change. Secondly, the broken promises. Archmage was slated to be released this year. While there's still another half a year to go, I'm not very confident that we'll be seeing Archmage by the end of this year, considering they decided to do a tier 1 ranger class out of nowhere just a few months back. The stat revamp was slated to be completed in April. It's the end of July already, and yet there's barely any mention of it. Updates aren't given unless we specifically ask for it. Changes to the Void rotation was slated to be released by the end of July, but yet again it has been pushed back to an unconfirmed date. The thing is, I understand that AQ is a small team, but if you can't keep your promises, then just don't make any in the first place, or at least give yourselves a more generous deadline. Bringing your players' hopes up only to disappoint them time and again later on is very bad look for the team and very bad for player morale. Thirdly, the obsession with game balance. A vocal minority of players have recently become obsessed with game balance. This has led to a large majority of veteran and paying players getting pissed off due to numerous nerfs to items as well as slated future nerfs. The casuals who may be unaware will suddenly find a decrease in the quality of their gameplay experience when all of a sudden this super good item that is recommended by many, which was supposed to help them with their lower level experience, stops functioning as it was intended to. This is also especially true for paid or premium items. Any attempt to nerf them will surely generate unhappiness since players who paid for said items are getting a downgrade to what they initially paid for, and I personally feel this is a very scummy business practice, and I hope AQ doesn't fall into this trap. While to be fair to the team, there hasn't been any nerf to these premium items that players were unhappy with yet, it's worrying when there's so much discussion about it ongoing every day by the players that one particular dev seems to be biased to. More on that in the second part of the video. While I acknowledge that balance is somewhat important, let me remind you that for over 20 years, there has never been such a huge divide or so much unhappiness in the player base when balance was literally non-existent in the game. The devs need to decide on what's more important for the game. Keeping majority of players happy, players who actually spend time playing the game and supporting the game through monetary means, or pleasing the vocal minority who are more concerned with doing math equations on paper rather than playing the game. All this obsession with balance has also led to many lackluster releases this year in particular. I see many unique and creative effects, but they are all rendered useless because said items cannot be too strong for balance to exist. What exactly is the point of spending so much time and effort creating new items that players won't even use because they are bad? Speaking from my own personal experience, I have not felt the same level of excitement for new item releases, the want to use them, for quite a while now. Maybe this is my own personal problem. I like the design and effects behind some items, but they are just too weak to be practically used. Items need to be good for players to want to use them. A very recent example of what I mentioned is the foul play win spell from beating the Avian Trio. To be fair and to their credit, the communicant weapon buff as well as the new shark weapon in the LTS for this week's release were actually pretty good. These are the items that players want to see, strong items. Fourthly, the clearly outdated 20-turn model and the reluctance to do anything about it. This model has been outdated for many years and both the staff as well as all the players agree. Instead of sticking it to it till the end of time when everyone clearly knows it's a bad model, something should be done about it. Expecting players to accept this mediocrity and unwillingness to improve the game isn't a good look. We understand the team is small. No one is expecting it to be done overnight. It is a massive update after all. Baby steps can be made, but it beats doing nothing at all and asking us to accept it because it has been the same model used for the past 20 years. Battles don't last 20 turns and they shouldn't last 20 turns. So why keep sticking to this model? The excuse that 20 years worth of content will be invalidated by scrapping the model is simply untrue. The game has over 1,000 items, but only 100 or so are being used. Over 90% of items are already invalidated and not being used at all even without any changes. At most, the staff will only have to deal with the 100 or so items that are being used. Additionally, they can also release new gear based off a better, updated, new model for future releases. This is not an impossible task. Baby steps, 1 to 2 items a week isn't a tall order. Yet every time I bring this up, the same sorry excuse keeps getting used that they are invalidating 20 years worth of content and needing to update all 20 years worth of content is impossible, which simply isn't true at all because realistically, only 10% of said content that players are actually using needs to be updated. Fifthly, donation contest rewards. Now, to be very honest, I don't usually care about things that do not affect me, but you know, there's always that something that you see in your life that irks you and you can't help but say something about it even if it doesn't affect you. Yeah. The math nerds from the GOG's Tavern server are apparently making noise that they should have a say in what the donation contest rewards should be like, and most, if not all of these players aren't even going to be in the top 15 or top 25 of donors. This to me is absolutely ridiculous. The very nature of such a contest is pay to win. You're essentially paying for what you want to see in the game. The fact that these non-payers are even having any say at all absolutely blows my mind. Can you imagine spending money to buy an iPhone but someone else buying a Nokia decides that your iPhone should be changed to a Nokia instead? Yeah, and that's exactly what is going on. Now, they obviously have the right to make suggestions on what the items should be, but ultimately the final decision should lie with the whales, the top 15 or top 25 donors. Anyone who's not part of that list should have minimal or no say at all regarding the rewards, because it is just extremely unfair for the whales to be spending their money only to have the rewards be something that others want. Lastly, the recent changes to overcapping and poor level scaling. I understand that this was done to prevent abuse and it probably wasn't intended for content to be only doable at max level, but so little can be done in the game at a lower level. Players who want to enjoy the story can't do so because many of the older quests have poor scaling and they'll find themselves randomly stonewalled by higher level monsters that they have zero chance of beating unless they level up first. Which is why most of the time players are encouraged to grind to max level before they start doing the story or getting their mastercraft equipment. With the changes to overcapping, this makes it even more difficult and tedious to level up. And now there are zero pros to beating higher level monsters since rewards are scaled, but all of the cons of fighting a higher level monster, which is the increased difficulty, remains. Let me know, new, returning, or casual players who aren't max level yet, how's the gameplay experience? Is it enjoyable? I don't know if you see it, but I think the recent war is the clearest example of player morale. Many players are no longer excited to play the game because of the reasons I mentioned above. The war is progressing at a snail's pace and even Hollow had to cut 500,000 waves from it. Possibly more later on, who knows. I may be wrong, but I don't think there's ever been a need to cut war waves before. The only slower war I could think of was last year's Blarney War. Maybe it's a combination of all the factors I mentioned above that led to this, or maybe it's just me overthinking and it's purely coincidental that players are busy this time of the year to be warring. I don't know, it's just my guess. What do you guys think? That's all I have to say for the first part of the video. Now, we are moving on to the second part of the video, which is regarding the unprofessionalism from Cray, AQ's current writer. So, officially he is AQ's writer, but he has also unofficially took on the role of community manager / messenger, and I don't think he's doing a very good job for a few reasons. If other AQ staff are watching this, can you let me know if whatever he says is his opinion alone, or is he speaking for the whole AQ team? Because I don't want to paint everyone with the same paintbrush if it's not the case. Number 1. Favoritism. I think this is clear to many players, not just myself. There have been obvious cases of favoritism towards members of the GOG's Tavern server. You can argue that some players maybe just don't like him and are biased towards him, but I can also argue that your closer than normal relationship with him would lead you to favor him. While he is free to hang out and make friends there, he has to remember that as a staff, a professional distance and neutrality has to be maintained when dealing with all players. Every time opinions that members of that server don't agree with are being brought up, they go crying to him, expecting him to step in and silence everyone using his authority. Now, this isn't a problem unless he acts on it. The problem is that he does act on it. The current relationship he has with them currently far exceeds that of normal game staff and players. Leaning towards a third-party server is not very professional behavior. Very recently, I had a heated discussion with one of the mods of the GOG's Tavern in the Artix Entertainment official server regarding game balance. By the time he came online, the discussion had already ended. He then went on to give me a 24-hour timeout/mute because apparently the points I raised were in bad faith. The other guy, however, was let off scot-free. It takes two hands to clap. I can't have a discussion on my own, so why am I the only one getting muted if he willingly took part in the discussion as well? Later on, I proceeded to rant in my own private server saying that he had better reverse that decision or I'm going to write in to his boss Hollow, which is the AQ game lead. I did write in to Hollow, by the way, just haven't gotten a reply yet. Not sure if I'll ever get one though, since I heard he doesn't reply to players. Minutes after I said that in my own server, I got banned from the Artix Entertainment official server on grounds of threatening staff. I have two problems with this. Firstly, why am I getting banned for something I said in my own server? Do I not have freedom of speech in my own server that I created? You can check my logs. There was nothing I've said in Artix Entertainment official that was deserving of a ban. Secondly, how can I threaten you with anything unless you've done something wrong? Are you admitting that you have a guilty conscience? This is an obvious case of abuse of power. By the way, he shouldn't even have mod powers in that server to begin with unless he officially took on the role of a mod there. He was only given the powers recently to reinstate a lost message, but I guess someone forgot to take it away, and lo and behold, abusing the powers so soon already. Okay then, assuming there really was some stuff that I said that went against the rules, why was there no mutes or bans handed out when players of that server single out players in my server and attacked them? Where were the bans and mutes when a particular player was being rude and disrespectful to new and returning players asking for help? Where were the bans and mutes when players from the GOG's Tavern were arguing in bad faith against me? You can't argue that he wasn't there to witness all of that, because firstly, chat is usually slow in that channel, and secondly, he was there while it was unfolding, but chose to do nothing. While I would have loved to show you the logs to prove my innocence, all of the messages had already been deleted by them. Why delete them if you have nothing to hide? Everyone can see the interactions you have with the GOG's Tavern players. So my viewers, let me know, do you think there's favoritism at play here or am I just being paranoid? You be the judge. Number 2. Unwillingness to listen to different opinions with regards to game and item balancing. Different opinions encourage different and creative perspectives on ways to improve the game. This also links back to my point earlier regarding the obsession with game balance. The unwillingness to compromise when it comes to this is going to be the final nail in the coffin for the game unless something is done about it ASAP. Don't limit your creativity because you are being blinded by the idea of balance. Exceptions can be made. Be flexible. It's a huge waste of creativity. Every time a suggestion that's being brought up that isn't backed by a math equation, it gets brushed aside simply because it isn't mathematically balanced. Not every player knows or cares about the math behind the game. They just want to have fun and give suggestions to stuff that can give them said fun. If the game isn't fun for them, then obviously they wouldn't want to play it anymore. It is incredibly frustrating to see actual good suggestions, not just by myself, but by many other players as well, brushed aside with perfunctory replies, simply because they don't come from the math nerds of the GOG's Tavern server. Maybe for a change, start listening to the players who are paying your salary instead of the ones that don't, or you won't have a salary for much longer. Balanced items and math aren't going to feed you. It's the strong items that will make players actually want to part with their money. You have the numbers. What's the token packages that make the most money? What's the most bought golden gift box item? Is it some balanced garbage or is it the overpowered strong items? At the end of the day, this is a business, and as an employee, your job is to help the company make money. Let's be real here. It is the unbalanced OP crap in every single game out there, not just AQ, that makes the game fun. This is a fact you cannot deny. So, why then are you trying so hard to make the game unfun for players? Like I said before, balance is important, but only up to a certain extent. Don't be so inflexible just because you need to stick to the outdated crap model. The fact that you label every single suggestion you disagree with as arguments in bad faith, then proceeding to silence them is extremely unprofessional. It seems that AQ has been plagued with bad writers. The previous writer, Lord Barriers, got fired for being unprofessional, rude to players and being unwilling to listen to feedback. The only saving grace from him, however, is that at least he was equally a dick to everyone rather than a select group of players. Stick to your job as a writer and do it well. Don't dabble in things that you're not very good at. I have no idea why AQ writers are going down the same path, but I hope something can be done about it. While I am the one making this video, I think many players share the same thoughts as me. You can take a look at the comment section on YouTube for AQ videos, or even hop into my server and take a quick look. To a smaller extent, maybe even the forums and the Arctics Entertainment official Discord. I love this game and will hate for it to die out because of a few bad eggs. The day your critics go silent is the day your game dies, because without criticism then there is no room for improvement, and it will mean your players have completely given up on the game. That's why they stopped caring about it. Rather than wasting time trying to silence your critics, take the time to listen to them and improve the game. Players who are critiquing the game and giving suggestions shouldn't be labelled as trolls. Now, I really dislike making these type of videos, but sometimes the staff in this game really needs a wake up call. That's all I have to say. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to see more AQ content, then be sure to subscribe to this channel. Till the next time, I'm your host Korban Gaming. Peace out.